Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to WASA Distance Education and ENG3E. Today we will be starting on a new unit, unit number 3. And unit number 3 is entitled The Journey. And I'm going to the contents section here right now, and here is the overall unit theme on page 2 of that unit. Exploring journeys, personal, cultural, and societal, through Indigenous stories, immigrant narratives, media text, and personal reflections. In this unit, you will be reading about and reflecting upon journeys taken by other people. Some follow a path set by their ancestors. Others follow their families across oceans in hopes of creating a new way of life or finding a life they may have left behind. All have made decisions about how they will handle their journey. Your journey is one of those decisions as well. You are faced with issues, you learn about them, and you sometimes have to make decisions about them as well. Each decision you make, whether it is about friends, family, work, or life in general, it may change the course of your path, but always helps you move forward on your journey. The unit outcomes then, by the end of this unit, students will, in reading and interpretation, demonstrate an understanding of Indigenous songs, immigrant stories, and media articles by summarizing, analyzing, and making personal connections. Under the Research and Inquiry subtopic section, students will use online and print sources to gather, synthesize, and present information on people, media, and culture. Now, there's a word right there. We'll just stop for a second and talk about this word synthesize. And it is an important um, idea. It's an abstract idea that uh, we can only talk about. We can demonstrate what synthesize means by combining two different elements and creating a new one from it. So if you add sodium and chlorine, you get salt, NaCl, right? So that's a synthesis of a sort. Now we don't have sodium or chlorine around, but there are many things that we synthesize in everyday life. So let's say we see um, an animal. Let's say we're out hunting. That animal is running, ranging free in the environment. It's a living being. Then we hunt that animal. We shoot it, maybe a moose, or if we're living up north, a caribou, and we cook it. And by cooking it, we synthesize it into food, right? So now it's no longer. I mean, it it is technically still a steak. Once we eat it and it goes inside of us, though, um, it becomes digested in our stomach, and we are synthesizing that wild animal, that wild free running animal, into energy and protein and to keep our bodies strong and fit. So we do the same when we read something or we listen to some music and then we connect it with our personal experiences and write those common things that we might find between our personal experiences and that song or that poetry or that story. And this is an act of synthesis when we put those two things together and come out with something totally new in our writing or in our oral presentation or whatever. Under the communications subtopic, we will write summaries, paragraphs, and reflections with clarity, structure, and conventions appropriate to the audience and the purpose. So generally in this course, we, the audience and the purpose for when you write your assignments will be, of course, your teacher. Your teacher will be your audience, and the purpose will be to get a grade. But if we're um, out in existing in our everyday um, adventures of life, and we write a complaint letter or an application letter, um, then we have different audiences. And so when we have different audiences, we write in different ways. If you are telling a story, for instance, to a group of kids, you're not going to come out with like real abstract type of ideas that will be hard for them to understand, or you might not want to tell them really scary stories because they have a hard time separating themselves from a scary story and the everyday present, and they get scared, too scared, right? So, depending on what our audience is, we have to shape our writing or our communication to suit them. The next subtopic then is critical thinking. Evaluate the impact of media, cultural traditions, and community practices on identity and society. So, of course, media has had a huge effect on all kinds of different groups in North America, United States, Canada. Um, we don't have to go back very far to uh, understand that there was a stereotypical view on minority cultures in Canada and well, mostly in the United States. And we're very much influenced by the media of the United States, even though Canada has gone to great lengths to try to separate our identity from the United States. We are still very much influenced by them and their media. And of course, cultural traditions. Canada's a place of many different cultures, and um, each of those cultures have their own traditions and their own community practices, and that affects the identity of the individual. And then application, make personal, cultural, and community connections through comparative tasks, reflections, and culminating projects. So students, when they complete the key questions for this assignment, will be successful if they can define and explain concepts such as parable, employability, employability skills, attitudes, media influence. They'll be successful when they can summarize text and research clearly in their own words. And so we've done summarizing previously. We've had some key questions where we have summarized, used summarization, and we've also done research. But we will continue on because those are two very important skills that you need to be able to get a firm grasp on in this time and age. Students will be successful when they compare and contrast cultural experiences. Inuit hunting versus local traditions. Reflect on journeys, personal, emotional, and cultural. Analyze articles, media, identify complaints, issues, and form opinions with support. And so the more support that you can get for your opinions, the more valid it becomes. I mean, if you make a post on Facebook and it is your opinion, then a lot of people can question your integrity. But the more support that you have, the less people can do that. Right? So if you're going to put something out there, then you want to you don't want to have to deal with people attacking you or um, calling you out. Why post to be abused in that way? Because that's what happens a lot of time. But however, when you form an opinion and then sup- you back it up by support, like someone of credibility who said something that you said in a similar fashion, then you have that always to fall back on. Apply writing conventions, of course, right? These are critical, um, whether you're going on to post secondary or even in the work situations, you have to be able to communicate clearly with your fellow employees or with your administrators, bosses. It's just really important. And finally, collaborate and present findings effectively. Okay, so let's take a look at activity one then of this unit, unit number 3, found on page, whoops, where is the page number here? Oh, this is an older version here. Huh, oh, that's not very good. Sorry about that. Hopefully you have page numbers on your documents. Huh, well, we can fix that. I can simply get into this space right here. It's called a footer. And let's move this out of the way. X out of there. Okay, and so what I want to do here, I want ah, insert. Oh, there, page number. We'll put it at the bottom of the page. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so hopefully that was corrected before it was sent out to you. All right, so let's. Oh, okay, here we go back to the introduction. That's on page 3 then. In this activity, you will explore the song Shama, Sh- Shamaya by Susan Aglukark and reflect on its deeper meaning as a parable of life. You'll learn how to define and apply the idea of a parable, research Susan Aglukark's life and accomplishments, and summarize in your findings in your own words. You'll also compare and contrast a traditional Inuit hunt with a personal, family, or community hunting experience, showing respect for cultural perspectives and traditions. Through this activity, you will practice writing clear and well structured paragraphs with strong topic sentences, supporting details, and proper grammar, spelling, and punctuation. By the end of this activity, you'll be able to explain the deeper meaning of Shamaya, summarize key information from research, make meaningful connections between tradition and local hunting practices, and present your ideas clearly. So, the success criteria then, after you complete the key questions, or what you will be able to do to complete the key questions successfully, you'll be able to define the word parable clearly and apply it to Shamaya. I can explain, or you will be able to explain what is meant by the deeper meaning of the song. You can research Susan Aglukark and write a clear, accurate 5+ sentence summary in your own words. I can make connections. You will be successful if you can make connections between traditional Inuit hunting and local family community hunting practices. You'll be successful when you can explain similarities and differences in terms of animals, respect, use of resources, sharing, and celebrations. You'll be successful when you can write a clear, structured, you can write in clear, structured paragraphs with a topic sentence supporting details and a conclusion. You'll also be successful when you can use correct spelling, grammar, and punctuation most of the time. And no one's perfect. We will have our errors when our writing, and some of them slip past us. So you can read about the song Shamaya on pages 94 to pages 95 of your textbook, Road Ahead. And then we have some reading selections from the media studies part of your notebook or textbook. How to reflect on and examine individual values, pages 24 and 25. All right, so Key question 11 is what we are responsible for completing and will be successful with this assignment if we follow the success criteria as we complete all the questions in the assignment. Shamaya is a song about an Inuit boy learning to be a hunter but on a deeper level. It is a parable of life. So, for the first part, you just simply have to define the word parable. It's not a word that we run across that often in day to day living, right? So, easy to do a search for that, right? Google is our best friend. Okay, so in our on dictionary, that's the online dictionary, that is. It's probably the same as maybe the hardcover that you have, if you have one available. So, a parable is a simple story used to illustrate a moral or spiritual lesson as told by Jesus in the Gospels. Okay, so that's where most people might be uh, familiar with that term, parable. So it's a story, a simple story. It has a theme and a message to it. The message usually covers a moral, what is right and what is wrong, or a spiritual lesson. Depending on what culture you are in, the spiritual lesson is different. Now, if we look at the Merriam-Webster definition, it also says that it is fictitious, right? So it's not a true story, it's made up, but its purpose is to illustrate that moral attitude or religious principle. So, a very similar type of definition as the first one we looked at, but it's always good to look at a few different types of definition and don't take one site's word for it or one person's word for anything. Always look for some kind of backup. What do you think is meant, part B here, what do you think is meant by the phrase, but on a deeper level, it is a parable of life? What is the real journey in the song? So I do have a copy of the song here. Now I can't play the song, otherwise we might get bitten by our friendly YouTube censors. And I have in the past, so I don't play music from YouTube um, on our shows here or in our classes, which is okay. Um, you want to listen to that song. Um, the artist is Susan Aglukark, right? She is the singer-songwriter of the song. So you can just do a search for Shamaya and then add Susan Aglukark's name to it, and it'll come up in YouTube. And it's a wonderful song to listen to. It's beautiful, um, and I hope you enjoy it. Now we're just going to look at the lyrics for right now, and Let me see. Here they are, and I'll read through them. I won't sing them, promise. All right, let's try this. Deep in time, a hunt took place that made a boy a man. A song was sung to celebrate and welcome each new hand. The story of Shamaya, the song that brings to life the hunt that each boy had to face, the hunt of joy or strife. And he knows, there he knows, Shamaya, Shamaya. So they paddle, should that be paddle? So they pedaled down the water's edge, a journey of first rights. His trembling hands are clenching tight, excitement in his eyes. The old man starts to tell him of a journey just like this, when 40 years before he'd lost himself in this same myth, and the boy became a man. Shamaya, Shamaya. He hunts with such a vengeance, the passion turns to pride, the hunt no longer born of need, but fueled by his desire. Shamaya is not a myth he learns, it's a parable of life. So when you know your needs too great, so when you know your needs too great, you should put out the fire and journey on, journey on. Shamaya, Shamaya. So the story of Shamaya is not a single traditional narrative in Inuit mythology. Rather, Shamaya itself refers to a traditional celebratory song sung by a hunter in a specific family after they successfully hunt the five largest sea mammals. So this is in the Inuit tradition, of course, and they mention the five largest sea mammals. I wonder if they mean five large. What are the five largest sea mammals? Of course, we have whales and seals. I'm not sure what the other um, sea mammals are up in the Arctic. But the whole idea is it's not like a lot of the other stories that are passed on that kind of stay the same from generation to generation, right? This is more of an event that happens. The song that is created as within a family, and that is individually within a family, is passed on from grandfather to grandson. So every family would have their own song. So one of the themes or narratives then of the song is the coming of age. This is the core theme and is the intense personal transformation a boy goes through when he faces the challenges of the hunt. The experience is a mark of independence, responsibility, and maturity within the community. Because in the traditional sense, right, it takes, um, there's a lot of knowledge that goes, um, that is instilled into a young man before he actually goes and on a hunting trip, right? So, you know, handling of the firearms or weapons that they're going to use, and how they're going to track a specific animal, and all kinds of other safety things that are probably necessary in case they run into trouble. They have to know all of this. You just don't go chasing and running down an animal without having some kind of backup support there. I mean, you could freeze to death out on the ice if you, fell through. You went into the wrong direction, right? And some ice is probably not as safe as others. These are all things that you would have to learn up there um, when you were going hunting. And the weather, right? Um, certain weather means better hunting. And where the opposite of that is that other weather would mean um, less chance of being able to shoot or kill the animal that you are hunting. So lots of preparation has to go into that. And so over the years, as a young fellow grows up, then going out with their parents, they learn how to dress their kill and cut up the meat properly. Um, make sure the dog. Generally, up there they have, or they did in the past, they had dog sleds, right? And they still use dog sleds a lot up in the Arctic. And so, certain part of the kill would go to the dogs, and they'd have to be able to control them um, all the time. So, this is it takes time and maturity to be able to be prepared for the hunt. No one wants to see like a young teenager out on a hunt. Um, it could be um, there might be a lot of dangers written in that. Um, Also, a shared experience is another theme. Aglukark's great uncle shared this story with her, relating a tale of a young boy's journey and an old man recalling his own similar path to adulthood decades earlier. The narrative emphasizes that this myth or tradition is shared timeless experience for men and in their family and culture. So the culture gets passed on by that hunting experience. And I think that's where you'll find some very common threads here with the communities in to our north, the northern communities here. Um, uh, you think of in the fall time when all the hunting fests are on. Well, this was a time that people would go out and they go hunting and bring back food or bring back, let's say, a moose, and then they would have a feast. And feasting is very important in the north. It's a way to bring all the community together and to share. And this has been going on for like thousands of years. So things have changed, though. I mean, um, you know, um, a lot of food now is brought in from by the northern, right? And most of the communities that are north get most of their main substance from um, imported food. And it stands to reason, like, I always think that, you know, um, it would be pretty hard to for a community to sustain itself in the north here on just shooting local wildlife because uh, the communities have grown so large now that the uh, um, there isn't enough local wildlife to support. So things are changing, right? And but still, the importance of the community hunt, where we have here in our north, the indigenous peoples in our northern areas, and the community hunt in Quawick, the Inuits, have a lot of similar references to their cultures. And also celebration and documentation. Historically, a man who successfully caught five major sea animals. Oh, here we are. Such as the polar bear, narwhal, and seal. So I didn't know that. Um, think that polar bears would be included. Um, I know that in our north, that around Fort Severn, that no one really likes to go hunting polar bears. They have to shoot them every once in a while when uh, there is a threat in the community. When they're too close to like the kids who are going to school because they're so dangerous. But generally, the community, like Fort Severn, um, tries to prevent them being shot for no reason at all, only when somebody's life is threatened. So they don't mention really five major sea mammals, but maybe they mean a total of five, maybe three narwhals, and maybe other different types of whales too, like orcas, or I'm not sure, or different types of seals. So the song and the story serve to document the hunter's individual journey and survival. The broader cultural context of Inuit oral traditions are rich stories often containing deep behavioral codes and a close relationship with the nature and the spirit world. So there's a really great site I recommend going through if you want to learn more about traditional Inuit practices. Asuma Productions. I used to play some of their videos there in one of our, an early version of some of our courses. This would be like 25 years ago. Um, but they have some great documentary type of videos that are available, and it's really fascinating to watch them, the videos, because they are able to express and show us what it's like to live in the north if you're an Inuit. And so they're all, the options are all here. Um, at a at a Narjuit, at a Narjuit, called The Fast Runner, is a very famous movie. It won, it wasn't a Golden Globe, it was the Cannes Film Festival um, years ago, a long time ago. but it won a very important, very respected film festival, which is quite an honor. Um, and the great thing about it was is that it wasn't in English or French or any other language other than Inuit. And of course, we had English subtitles, but it was nice to hear the language too, because the language is rare. I mean, around here, we wouldn't hear or see anyone speaking Inuit. I don't know if that's even the right way to say their specific language, but um, it makes it all that more fascinating. Okay, so if you're interested in learning more and about the Inuit culture, this is the site to go to because this Asuma TV and Asuma Productions was created and owned and operated all by Inuit people. You also have a really good section here on digital indigenous democracy. That would be the Inuit form of democracy. Okay, and then let me go back to the actual document. I think I covered that all. So, in the broader cultural context, oral history stories are a primary way of transmitting knowledge, values, and history. Art also plays a significant role in solidifying, passing along these narratives. So, a culture, that's how a culture lives and exists by its stories. It also shows the connection to the land. The story highlights the importance of traditional practices like hunting to the Inuit way of life and connection to the land, which has faced significant changes due to outside influences and government relocations. And this has happened a lot in the north, in the Arctic. It's happened somewhat here in northwestern Ontario as well. Um, People build dams and people forcing people to relocate, and then they lose connections with um, traditional ways. So in Lac Seul, they lost a lot of the rice production areas, right? Whole graveyards disappeared, that connection to the past. And in the Arctic, the government just moved whole communities to make them more accessible. And finally, modern storytelling. Susan Aglukark translates these traditional stories into contemporary formats, blending Inuktitut. Inuktitut. Okay, so that's the language, right? Inuktitut. And English languages with modern music to bridge cultures and generations and ensure that the stories endure. Okay, so let's go back to the actual unit here. Right, so hopefully that will help you with number one. And then two, using the internet, find some information about Susan Aglukark, the singer-songwriter Shamaya. You are to download, read, and print at least 2 pages of information about Miss Aglukark, including any pictures about who she is, her life, and her accomplishments. Create a title cover page with your printout to include a title for your findings, your name, the course, and the date. Based on the information that you have found about Miss Aglukark, write a brief summary of your findings. Number three, compare a traditional hunt by Inuit people with what you have experienced by yourself, a family member or your family, relatives, or other people in your community. In your response, include information on the following: the animal or animals hunted, respect for the animals hunted, uses of animals hunted, family, community sharing, and celebrations. So you'll need at least 3 paragraphs of approximately 3/4 to 1 page handwritten. Make sure you go through the writer's process to do this, to help you organize all your information, to be able to fix any of those grammar or sentence structure errors that you might have. All right, so very simple to find the information that you need. And what's really important, though, is being able to compare it with your own experiences, your own personal connections, right? Um, I can remember back when my dad took me hunting for the first time. Huh? Rabbit hunting down around Sarnia. We didn't get anything, but it was kind of a meaningful experience. He had hunted a lot when he was a kid, and but that was back like 1,000 years ago. So um, yeah, so you may have similar type of experiences, or you may know of experiences from family members. And but try to use these five criteria here in your writing. Okay, that's on page 5. Anyways, that's all I have to cover for today. And I hope you enjoyed our class. Have a look at the rubric when you are, uh, well, actually, before you finish writing your um, assignments, because that is how you're going to be assessed if you remember. Anyways, have a great afternoon, everyone. Try to